Our guest today is a veteran of the digital space who has been navigating the ever-changing tides of the internet for over 2 decades. Greg Mandiel first cut his teeth during the late 90s startup boom. When the dot-com bubble burst, instead of backing away, he saw it as the perfect moment to build something of his own. In September 2004, he launched Mandiel Web Design. What's fascinating about Greg's path is that it actually began in the arts. A drummer and illustrator at heart, he originally pursued a degree in the music industry, but a career pivot in Boston led him to the world of web startups and entertainment media, and he never looked back. Today, 20 years later, his firm has evolved to Mandiel Digital Marketing. Greg has made a name for himself by delivering custom, mobile-friendly web solutions that don't just look good, they perform. His customer-first philosophy and deep expertise in SEO have helped countless businesses turn their digital presence into a powerhouse for growth. He's a passionate networker, a creative strategist, and a trusted partner in the web development world. With that, I will welcome Greg to the show.
Hey, nice to see
Hello
you.
there.
How are you?
Good to see you too. I am so excited for this conversation. I always like to start out by sharing how I met my guest, and we were backstage before we started live here, and we were talking about trying to remember how we met. So it was a virtual networking event almost 3 years ago, which is crazy. Time flies. So we've been in each other's worlds for a few years and kind of kept in touch. And when we talked about having you on the show, we were having a networking call, just kind of catching up. We were talking about common mistakes that business owners make in the world of websites. And so you had shared with me something that I see time and time again is that business owners think that if they go through getting a brand new website, whether it's a refresh or like start up from scratch, like, oh, I have this new website. And what is the assumption that they make, Greg?
That everybody's going to know about my website, everybody's going to come to my website, and I don't need to do anything else.
Yes.
But the reality is it just sits there until you drive traffic.
Yes. And I say the same thing. I was actually having one of my recent guests, we were talking about lead magnets, and it's the same thing with like putting a great new shiny lead magnet on your website, right? Like you put it there, but you can't just assume that people are going to find it and download your free thing. Like you have to drive traffic to it. So for this conversation, right, talking about websites in general, like our entire website, I think so often business owners do go into a new website or a website refresh and just think, okay, I'm going to do this work, and then I got this new thing and people are just going to find it. So tell us, Greg, about, some of those experiences you have being a specialist in the website space. You've been at this a long time. What are some of those things that you're seeing with business owners that you've worked with in terms of the assumptions that they make in the reality and what they have to do?
Yeah. So like I said, they assume once that website's out in the world that the traffic magically comes. In reality, there's a lot of work involved with that, especially for local-based businesses, focusing in a couple different areas. Number one, on-site, which is really, really important. There's a lot of things in the back end of your website and the content on your website that can help drive traffic. But externally, there are a lot of things too. And the best place to start, I think, is a Google business listing. So, making sure your business is there and it's verified, and then you update it 100% and maintain it. A lot of people may go to the last step and stop, but if you don't maintain it, it doesn't help. So, really staying on top of it matters. Because with the Google business listing, more people will find you there than your website. It's really a gateway to your website. For example, I probably get 600% more traffic on my Google business listing than I do my website, but it's the gateway.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And so when you talk, I love that you mentioned Google business listing, because that is something I always ask every single client I work with. Like I usually go out and look for it. And then if they're not in my local area, I always like double check if I'm not seeing it. Like maybe they do have one, I'm just not seeing it. But I always talk about the importance of Google business listing for that exact reason. Like people can find you. And like, I like how you word that, like it's a gateway to your website. So people may do a Google search, find that Google business listing. And for people listening to this show, if you're like, wait a minute, how do I know if I have a Google business listing? I was like, Google your business name and see on the right-hand side of the page, does a listing come up there? Because if it's only the search results on the left side, kind of left center of the page, and not a Google business profile on the right side, then you know you don't have one. And you should have one. And Greg, I'm curious what your take is on this. I always tell business owners, regardless of if you're local or you serve, throughout the country, virtually or wherever, and every business should have a Google business listing. Are you of the same mind?
Yeah, it's almost like instant verification. If Google sees you as a real business, you're a real business. So you're right. Step one is to make sure you have one. If you don't have one, you can create one. But if you do have one,
for free, doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, it's free. It's free advertising. It's some of the best advertising you can do for free. But if you go and find one and you have one, if you don't actually own it and you can edit it, well, that's the next step really, is to take ownership of it, become verified, and then take control of it, because Google just starts the process for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Greg, when you were talking about Google business listing and keeping it up to date, what does that mean for people listening to this? Like, okay, first step, they're going to go make sure they have one. If they don't, they're going to create it, or they're going to claim one that already exists. Yeah. And then what is that kind of ongoing process to keep it up to date?
Yeah, making sure that it's branded properly. That's the first thing. Making sure the map is correct, making sure your address is correct, all the information in there. But once that's all set, at least once a month, go in there and touch it. And they allow for updates. I'm not sure if they call it blogging, but you can add articles and information on there. You can keep that active, add pictures. So if you're a service-based company, add pictures of some current projects, or if you have products, add some new pictures of your products, or if you have a new employee, and announce it there. Things like that to keep it fresh, and it helps Google understand that you're using it, you're updating it. Those are important, but the most important thing is to make sure that if you get reviews and testimonials, that you add them on your Google business profile. So instead of them asking your customers to email it to you or write it down or whatever it is, or put it on your website, that's all fine. But you want to have them added to your Google business profile. The more positive reviews that you get, it's like a rung on the ladder. It's just another notch. And they'll see, all right, he is locally trusted. They have 53 5-star reviews. Well, you're going to get listed higher than someone that has 20 or 5 reviews. Even if they've been there longer, they really weigh those testimonials. So if you're taking testimonials and reviews in any form, it's definitely important to go back to your clients and ask them to leave a review on Google. And if they don't know how to do it, walk them through it.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say too, I even have a Loom video that I share with my clients. So if anyone listening to the show is like, how do I send people a direct link to my Google business listing to leave a review, just send me a message. I'll send you the Loom video I created for my clients, because it's really easy. You can get a direct link, send it to them. And I always do that when I work with clients. I tell them, if people have left you LinkedIn reviews, or they've emailed you a testimonial quote because you asked them to, just send them that link to the Google review and ask them to copy and paste it in there. Because you can't do it for them. They have to do it. And like you said, Greg, it's such a great verification, right? In terms of the legitimacy of your business.
Yeah. I mean, Google loves local results, especially for those business listings. So, the more you seem as a trusted, verified business owner in your area, the higher you're going to get listed. And honestly, it's the easiest way to get found on Google without doing anything or paying for anything.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this is one great tip for listeners, is that, okay, you have a new website, refresh website, whatever it is, or maybe you just have an old website. But if you don't have a Google business listing, you are most likely missing out on a lot of potential traffic to your website. So that is a great first tip for sure for those people listening to the show, wondering how they could drive more website traffic. And maybe you have the Google business listing, but you haven't been updating it. This is something I talk to members about in my marketing support group, is at least going in there monthly to update things, to add like a new event that you might be hosting, or if you have a new lead magnet, like they give you the ability to share those things as updates for your business. So really important to keep that up to date. What else, Greg, besides the Google business listing, how else can business owners be working on or thinking about what do they need to do to get more traffic to that website?
Yeah. So what I call it is get found on Google. It really boils down to search engine optimization, which is SEO. But what I find is most of my clients that come to me don't know what SEO is or search engine optimization. So that's why I say get found on Google. We have just created some new packages that really focus on different types of businesses and where they are to really help them understand what they need for search engine optimization. There are so many people out there that tell you a million different things, and it's just like any industry, like whatever someone's good at, that's where they're going to say what works. But I've been doing this for a long time, and the one thing I found is there's no cookie cutter solution. There's no one size fits all. You really have to get deep in the woods and find out what's going to work for them. So, it could be working on-site SEO and building blogs, building content, changing the structure on the back end. There's a lot of things that can happen in the back end. And then there are things we can do off-site too to help drive traffic too. But like I said, no website or business is the same. And the approach we take is we'll do like a deep analysis on your website, on your competition, and what works locally. And then we'll focus on that. And we also, our new packages also will segment the businesses into even annual budgets. So you can say like, all right, this is where my annual budget is, and this package might be the best one for me. So it gives them a good starting point and to understand like why it might work for them.
Yeah. I am so glad we're having this conversation, Greg, because I feel like a lot of business owners might assume that if they're getting a new website, it's going to already have all this stuff in place. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. I'm guessing you probably have too, where someone invests in a brand new website, looks great, but there wasn't anything done in terms of SEO when that new site was being built. Yeah. Do you see that with some clients who come to you?
Yeah, actually most clients. And it's for a number of reasons, but I would say the biggest reason would be for budgetary constraints. SEO can be very expensive. So I definitely understand that, but there are ways to be creative, and just coming back to what we do, we create packages that are about as low as you can get to start off with SEO. Cause I think it's important. I've worked with a lot of people in the past when I used to white label SEO and, do things like that. And, everything was expensive and it was out of my clients' budget ranges. And that's a big reason why they couldn't do it. And once they hear that, they're just like, it's not for me. Right. But there are always things you can do. That's why I tried to find some creative ways to get them some traction for a smaller budget, because most packages that I've seen start at like $2,000 a month. That's not really affordable for any business unless you're $1 million plus. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of businesses that aren't $1 million plus. So, we're trying to find some ways for them to get traction. Because that was always the pushback, and I totally get it.
Yeah. I love that you say that too, though, that they're, understanding that SEO is, can be really expensive and not everybody's budget is going to be conducive to that. However, there are things that most businesses can do regardless of their budget to at least get some SEO elements in place. And I think really, this show is all about helping, right? Helping business owners make informed decisions about their marketing, learning from other people's mistakes. And one thing I really want to make sure listeners take away from this specific conversation is to ask the right questions if you're hiring a website provider, because again, Greg and I have both seen this. A lot of times business owners hire a website provider assuming that SEO is going to be taken into account. Or, I've had other marketing providers on the show in the website space where it's like, a business owner assumes that the website developer is going to write all the content for you. It's like, well, no, I mean, it depends on who you hire. And, you have to ask those questions to make sure you're making an informed decision about who you're working with. But for the purposes of this conversation, Greg, I'm curious, what are some of those questions that you would encourage business owners to be asking if they're vetting potential website providers from this SEO standpoint?
Yeah, that's a really great point. Seeing, potential clients come to me that have either been burned or have talked to people and in my opinion, gotten false or bad information. I like to educate people. So, even if they're not going to work with me, I still want them to know what to look for. And, some of the things are like how they go about their process, right? What's important to you, what's important to them. So, how they design things, how they build things, what platforms they use, why they use those platforms, why they think they're best. Is it widely used? If they leave that company, will someone else be able to use it? What are their strategies for content? Because a lot of times people will hire someone and not have any idea that they need to provide the content. So, and content can be, words or images or videos, right? So those things matter. Using terrible stock photography can make a, bad impression as well. But just finding out how they work, maybe looking at their testimonials and see how they've been reviewed. And then, talk to them about how they strategize about driving traffic. Do they have a strategy? Do they just leave you once you're built? Once you're done building their website, do they wash their hands of you and you never hear from them again? Right? Like those things. Like, and what's their plan for regular maintenance if they need it? Do they offer that? How do they offer it? How do they charge? How much do they charge? Like all those things are really important. But really asking as many questions as you could think is really important. I would say over 50% of the people I talk to on the discovery call have been burned. And that's something I try to make, I try to help people avoid. I said, even if I'm just on like an initial call with them, I'll tell them some of the things to look out for when I hear like certain cues that they've said.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, Greg, I feel like you just rattled off probably like 10 to 20 questions for listeners to take into consideration if they are in a spot where they're looking for a website provider, asking those questions. I love, that question you said, especially about like, how are we going to drive traffic to this website, right? And just kind of leave that and see what the website provider says. Hopefully they're saying things like, well, let's talk about SEO and those kinds of things. And I think that could give you a really good sense of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely listen for those things. And anytime you hear something and you either don't understand what they're saying or what the word means or what their process is, ask. Because another thing I found, in a lot of different industries is when you're talking to someone, they assume you know these terms. So when you say SEO or AE, AIGEO or things like that, and they just run by and you don't know what they said, well, you can't take the rest of the conversation into context. Stop them. Ask them what those words mean. Don't be embarrassed because it's an industry term. It's not, your lack of knowledge. And I just go back to, changing on my website, SEO or search engine optimization to get found on Google. Because like I said, I found so many people that didn't even know what search engine optimization was. I just assumed they knew that. Yeah. And then when someone finally asked me, I was like, okay, that's a good point. So there might be some people that don't know what that means. So I need to change the context and just, bring it back a little bit and introduce them to what it means, Right.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I love that. So many good tips and pointers in this conversation, Greg. So we covered like Google Business Listing, we covered SEO, right? There's the internal site stuff and then there's the outward stuff, which, I mean, right, we're not going to go deep in the weeds here for the time that we have. We'll just kind of say SEO. Are there any other things that we didn't touch on that are things business owners should be thinking about in terms of how are they driving website traffic, aside from Google Business and SEO?
I would say another simple thing most people can do on their own is go to listings and directory websites. It could be anything from, oh boy, I'm forgetting the names, but there are a million listing websites out there. Just making sure that you're listed on there, but more importantly, that all your listings are all the same. So if even down to the littlest example, so let's say you're at 100 Main Street, you might have one listing that says 100 Main Street with the ST period. You might have one that says street. Well, that could be looked at as a different listing. So making sure they're uniform across all of those listings really make a big difference.
Interesting. I never knew that. So, I learned something new.
Yeah, it's important. I just learned that not too long ago. When I changed my business name, I had to go and get all that stuff wrapped up and making sure that the same across every platform. I'm sure I still have some work to do since there are 21 years of results, but I'll get there eventually.
Right. So these are online. What did you call it? Directories?
Directory listings. Like oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Like it's that restaurant list. You go look for restaurants.
Like Yelp.
Yeah, like Yelp. Thank you. Oh my God. Or the old ones like Yellow Pages. Or they could be industry standard ones, things like that. But, Yelp is the perfect example. I couldn't think of it. But there are listings, sites like Yelp, Bing business listings, websites like that. Apple Maps, all those things, just making sure they're consistent everywhere. You'd be surprised. Just Google your business name and see where you're listed. You might be on Angie's List or something like that, and it might have something totally different. You may have moved your business address. Who knows? There are a lot of sites out there that probably have you listed that you don't know about.
Interesting. Okay. That's super helpful. Super helpful. Oh my gosh, Greg, you have shared so much great information with listeners today in terms of how can we make sure that we're driving website traffic to our website, whether it's old or new or revamped. As we get ready to wrap up the conversation here, is there any last piece of advice that you would like to share?
I would say the most important thing, whether you're hiring someone for your website or to drive traffic to your website, is to really vet who they are. Make sure they know what they're doing. Make sure they have a good reputation. Definitely look at their Google business listing and their reviews, but ask a lot of questions. If you get pushback when people ask you questions, that could be a tell for sure. But also get a sense of who you are and who they are, because you're going to be working with them really closely. And, if you're oil and water, it's probably not going to work out great. It's sort of like creating like a temporary team, right? You guys are a team until this thing is at least launched. And if you can't work together and have different styles and aren't happy with, who you've chosen, you don't get along with it, it might not go well. So I think that's really important and people take that into consideration.
Yes. Oh, that's such great advice. And I will say, I've seen a lot, I think, of the same things that you have with potential clients and them hiring, past providers that it didn't go well, right? That's part of the reason I started this show, is to have those conversations. So I really appreciate your advice on that, Greg. And I would second that, like a thorough vetting process. Like Greg said, right? Read the reviews, ask a lot of questions, see what their response is to those questions. See if the personality fit is there, and maybe ask to speak to, a past client. Or, the other thing too is, right, like referrals are so important. And so like even just reaching out to your own business connections and asking who they used, right? That can really help in terms of that vetting process and getting those trusted providers that you should be talking to.
Yep, that's a great idea.
Awesome. Well, Greg, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing all of your insight and expertise in this space and what you have learned from working with so many clients over the years. As we kind of close out the show here, I would love to give you the chance to let listeners know how they can connect with you and learn more about the work that you do.
Sure. You can go to my website. It's Mandile Digital Marketing, Mandile. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you want to know more about me or my business, I have a schedule calendar on my website. Book a time with me. Let's sit down and talk and see what happens. I'm open to networking. I'm open to new business. And that's it. So those are the two main
Awesome.
ways to get in touch with me.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate you coming on the show. And